Welcome to a Rankum highlight. If you missed the show live or haven't caught it on demand, you'll be missing a lot of the banter back and forth between co-hosts and guests, as well as a lot of great community interaction. Be sure to catch Rankum Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern on Twitch. Also, don't forget to vote for or even suggest upcoming topics on future episodes on our YouTube page under the header Community. Here's a quick recap of Mica's top 5 MMORPGs.
Guild Wars 2, yep.
So why Guild Wars 2?
So, number one, I haven't played a vast amount of MMOs because I get so tunnel visioned when I have my main MMO. But when this came out, I started tinkering with it. And it's still something I go back to and I tinker with it every now and then. And just every time I go back, it's fun. I'm entertained. It's nothing I've ever really gotten into. I don't even think I've ever gotten to level cap on it. But I run around the world. I participate in like the world events and everything. And everybody's been really friendly. And I just kind of have fun with it. And it's like, yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I also really like the way they did stuff like I thought the Mesmer class was really interesting. So I had to put this on there because even though World of Warcraft is it really popularized the MMO, and it really like brought a lot of attention to it, and it spawned a lot. Now it did spawn a lot of WoW clones. Actually, recently just really started playing WoW. I haven't really ever played it, but with this new expansion coming out, it's like, and they say they're kind of, from my understanding, they're kind of resetting the game in a lot of ways, from levels to like how combat works and everything like that. So I'm just like, I'm gonna check it out. So I put it on there. I put it on there mainly for what it's done for the genre. Elder Scrolls Online, ESO. There's a few reasons.
Oh, Leksur's already mad. Keep going.
So there's a couple reasons I really like this game and a couple reasons I really dislike this game, which is why I didn't make any higher. I've always had fun in this game. I do like their subscription model, where the subscription is
buy to play,
not mandatory. You just get it and you get a few bonuses, and plus they give you money towards their cash shop equaling the amount you paid for your sub. I really like that. The things that I dislike about this game, though, is I think that combat really needs some work because it's really basically boring. And I am so spoiled with cinematic cutscenes, and the lore is so good with Elder Scrolls Online, but you just have this NPC standing there emoting as they're talking, and it just kind of is boring too. So while there's while there is a lot of good, there's just the bad is just bad enough to keep me from playing this regularly. And we were actually talking about this before the show, because I've been playing Fallout 76 too. And I was saying that it's to the point where I don't even notice it anymore. I'm just like, oh, it's a Bethesda game. And it's gonna be bugging. It's just something you kind of expect. And it's like, well, if I want to play, if I enjoy Elder Scrolls, I just kind of deal with it. And and we were talking about how it should be like that, but it's just kind of become like that. Actually, because I'm sure people thought this was going to be my number one.
Not me when I saw it.
Yes, Final Fantasy XIV. And the reason this is number 2 on my list is I have been playing Final Fantasy XIV. I was one of the original testers of the original game back in 2010. I did all the testing for it. It came out. I actually was just like, well, they took none of our advice while testing, so I'm not going to play this anymore. And about a week after I quit, Yoshida took over and he said, hey, we're going to reboot the game, but we're going to keep it running. We want you all here, keep going. And I stuck with it throughout the entirety of version 1. I was there till the servers went offline. And then I was back when the servers came back online for Realm Reborn. And I've just kind of been there ever since. I did run a guild in there for a long time, don't have one anymore, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where this game has so much like it's almost like it's my baby because I've been with it for so long. It's just kind of like
seen full life cycle.
Yeah, and just kind of like, and it's like I've seen through the good, I've seen through the bad.
In all fairness, too, Mica, you have been just as down as you've been up on this game. So I'm going to give you mad credit for that because you'll be the first guy to be like, "This is stupid." So
yeah, I'm very critical of the game, but it's like I'm and it's kind of one of those things. I'm critical because I care, sort of things. And like we were talking about earlier, it is hard to get through. It is hard to get through the story, but the story is so good, especially right now.
You know, the one thing you brought up that we didn't talk about was the whole reborn part of it. And I got to tell you guys, Final Fantasy XIV did something that I will comfortably say will never happen again. It's the only time it happened, and I don't think it'll ever happen again. That game came out, Final Fantasy XIV was garbage. It was a garbage game. And they had the balls to say, we're not letting this happen to our franchise. And they literally took the game down for what, a year? And rebuilt the entire game. Yeah. Like
they kept it online for 2 years in that state, and they just kind of like built on it. And then they took it down for about a year.
And they completely put out a new game. Completely.
I don't care who you are. You've got to give a company or a dev team respect for that. They cared so much about their game that they were willing to rebuild it. That takes a lot of guts.
And they bet their company on it, because if 14 wouldn't have made it, they would have gone under.
And Square was in big trouble at that time.
It was such an experience to go through all that and to see like the way they pushed the story and the way for Delamod to come down, and just that I've never experienced a community like the version 1 Final Fantasy 14 community.
Yeah. And even Final Fantasy 14, when I played it, the community was really good. Like, I don't know how it is now, but it was really good in launch.
Yeah, I mean, like back in version 1 though, I mean, we were all so close, and we were all online together all the time. We were in voice chat. We were using Vent at that time. That tells you how long ago that was.
Vent was great.
But we were, you know, it's just kind of like, I mean, yeah, it was such a great experience, and you got to hear so much from the devs. The devs don't talk to us at all now, but they were very communicative back then.
Well, of course they were. They just rebooted their whole game.
Yeah, I mean, it was such an experience. I actually did a video on that final night of version 1, because that final night was so emotional for everybody involved. I mean, it was just such a great experience. And then, so yeah, it's my baby. I can't like ever walk away from it. My number 1, of course, is Final Fantasy XI.
I knew it.
This one was easy for me.
Vana'diel is my home. It will always be my home. I absolutely love this game so much. It was my first MMO. Like I said, when I started playing MMOs, it was all name recognition, and I played every single Final Fantasy game. I remember like barely being able to hold a controller and playing Final Fantasy 1 on my Nintendo.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just, yeah. And I mean, the game was good. It still is, actually, because it still has a pretty decent population. But the content was good. Yeah, the game. I mean, it definitely was challenging, and every time you died, you lost experience. So I mean, sometimes you would go through a raid, like you'd go through we called Dynamis Deathnamis because you die so much in it. And there was people who were actually leveling down, and then they'd be running around naked because they couldn't wear any of their gear, and you had to like build them back up. And it was just, but it was so much fun. And we built. So Final Fantasy XI's guild, my guild in Final Fantasy XI spoiled me on guilds forever, because I started my guild right when we were still all new players. It was a bunch of us. We had no clue what we were doing. We were in a party together, and I was just like, hey, why don't we just get a link shell and create a guild? And they were like, cool. And then all of a sudden I had this guild. I had to learn how to run it. But we all stayed together for like 5-6 years. We became great friends, and it was just, it's like we did everything together. every week. We did every piece of content together, and it was just such a great tight-knit group.
Yeah.
And like everybody had each other's backs, and we all looked out for each other, and we all supported each other, and it was just the whole experience was just.
And let's give them
amazing.
some mad credit for the job system.
Mhm.
Multi-classing, I mean, it was the first game to do it, and it's maybe one of the best still. So,
Yeah, multi-classing, I that's good and bad because I can never decide what job I want to main.
Yeah.
But also, again, with the cinematic cutscenes and everything, and just how rich and everything it got, it just, yeah. One thing I actually just learned recently that I found really interesting too is the whole reason the combat and it was so deep within menus and everything was because Final Fantasy was known for that system of combat. So they were trying to recreate that in an MMO format.
Yep.
And that's the whole reason that combat's so slow, because they could also make it more strategic that way.